Hey, it's Wookie from Mandala Studios. Welcome to the workshop. Today we're going through the making of latex Grinch Mask Part 1 sculpting. So to start with, we just roughly block out the sculpt. So we do that by just applying a layer of clay over the whole surface to get a thickness that allows us to get it to roughly 10% bigger than we need the final mask to be. This head was selected because it's about the right size of the performance going to be wearing this. And we gathered lots of references of the original mask, as you can see on the board behind us, and we just start roughing out a bulk of clay just to get us an idea of where everything's going to go. We know we don't need to take it too far down the back of the head because of the way we're going to put the fur on, so that makes the moulding easy, so we don't need to sculpt down there. And we're just trying to get some vague idea as to how big everything is going to be and just get an idea of the forms. Then we smooth it all out just so we can really get a view of the profile and the position of all the parts. Once we've got it all roughed into position, we start to refine the forms. So we just keep adding little bits of clay now, working smaller and tighter just to get an idea of how everything's going to go. Start building up the cheekbones, the nose, making sure the symmetry starts to be in place a bit more. Spend a lot of time checking and rechecking the references because we're trying to get this to look quite close to the original. Normally our work doesn't need to be particularly close to any imagery because we're just trying to get the feel of it. This client wanted it to look as like the original as possible. So we're just going over the whole surface with a loop tool now, just pulling the forms into place. This is being sculpted in WED Clay, which means we can take a bit of time with it, but not as long as if we're using Monster Clay or something. But we've got a few days where we do this whole sculpt in a day, I think. Once we've got the primary forms all placed in, we start to move on to the secondary forms and the details. So we're starting to add the nasolabial folds, and just generally really try and dial in the details in the finish. Normally we do this by adding little bits of clay, then blending that into the structure we've already created for the primary forms. Getting other people's opinion on your sculpture is always helpful, I find. Get another pair of eyes, make the whole thing work together nicely. Starting to build up those secondary cheek creases. And really finalise the detail of the face shape at the bottom. Start to add some rough placement of the wrinkles and creases of the face around the eyes and the back of the head. We're matching those as close as we can to the original references. We sketched out the lines on the forehead in the clay and then put the creases in, trying to match our sketched in line work. We're starting to use finer and finer loop tools now to refine all those details and shapes. A lot of work now is with that really fine loop tool. It's a piano wire So it just rakes out the surface, and once we've got all that pretty much finished, we go over it with a plastic wire brush, which softens all our textures and forms and gives us our base layer for the details. Now we start to work into the details a bit more, the nose and stuff. Again, trying to match our reference as we go. So we're raking out the back of the head now just to smooth that off, because that just got abandoned for a bit while we're concentrating on the details of the face. We want to smooth it out so it's a nice even curve, and we just sort of section off the back so that we know where we're taking our mould lines to. Reworking the top of the head's profile slightly. Just raking over the entire surface to get rid of any poroginess. And just refine that head shape, and then just brush over again with the plastic wire brush to give us a base texture for working the textures and skin tone layers out on. Going to work into the details. So to start with, I soften everything off with a layer of talc over my sculpture. This serves a couple of purposes. It kicks off any beading caused by the texture tools, and it dries out the surface so that it means that any texture I'm putting in is into a firmer clay, which means it takes the texture a little easier. I'm texturing it with a stipple sponge here and a rubber thimble to get some pore texture. Soften it out with talc. This is a very iterative process, just keep working forwards and backwards till it looks right. I'm neatening out the eyes to get a nice crisp edge there, and going in with some wire tools to start adding some fine wrinkles.